present is this year, but with the release of the new Star Wars film, The Force Awakens, I would guess for most young men, and the bigger men too, like me, one of the most wanted gifts this year may well be the infamous lightsaber, which of course is the essential weapon of choice for any Jedi Knight. Now it's not surprising that a weapon of light was chosen to emphasise the power held by a user of such an armament, for light is indeed a powerful entity. It is being a natural agent in the universe, able to stimulate the sight and illuminate the invisible. And whatever view you may hold on the origins of the universe, I'm sure you would all agree that light was absolutely right at the heart of the beginning of creation as we know it. And of course light has a central factor too throughout the unfolding of all biblical history, from blinding Saul on the road to Damascus to accompanying the appearance of angels in dazzling rays of glory on the shepherd's fields surrounding Bethlehem. And indeed, as you look around the church tonight, you will see light symbolically being used as a central feature to our worship. Now, as you know, Jesus is and has been called by many names, but not surprisingly then, in view of the importance that is placed in light, perhaps the most majestic and self-proclaimed title is that of the light of the world, which is a fitting honour to one that claims to illuminate God's presence in the world. Now in the Gospel of John, Jesus used this phrase to identify himself. He said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have eternal life." And this, of course, is good news, not only for you and for me, but it's also good news for the whole world too, because it implies you see that God has a plan with eternity in mind. And it wasn't something that was just thrown together either. It was a plan that's been carefully orchestrated over thousands of years, with the birth of Abraham and his descendants, with every minute detail throughout time being calculated to the exact hour and the day. And I think it's important to emphasise that word plan, because as we look around the world today, it's sometimes difficult to actually see any divine plan being played out, or to make any sense of what is going on at all. But if we can trust that a plan is in place and keep focused on the light, we can see God most definitely at work in the world. So be encouraged and assured that God indeed has things in hand. And part of his intention, even though you may not even know it, is that you have been brought here tonight to the parish church of St. Paulinus for a reason. All right, you may not have followed a bright light in the sky. You may even got confused en route between the one bell and the church bell. But you are here nevertheless, and your presence is neither a mistake nor is it a chance happening. Now there may be some of you here tonight who have never been to church before, and you may have come to find what this church thing is all about. Well, that's fine, don't worry if it seems a little strange. You are indeed very welcome. You may even discover that some of us are actually quite human. Some of us. Or maybe for some of you this period of the year brings with it a sense of sorrow for a loved one who is no longer with us, and you have come seeking comfort for your grief. Whatever the reason you think you are here for tonight, it doesn't really matter, for everyone is most welcome. But what matters primarily is that you have all been called here tonight by God to be in the presence of Jesus Christ, the true light of the world, and to hear the good news of his message. But what is the good news? Because as I said a moment ago, life doesn't always seem good, does it? I don't know about you, but I certainly have troubles every day of the week, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And don't think for 1 minute that those lot back there are any different. They are not exempt from the trials and tribulations of life. Well, the good news of the Christian faith is quite simply Jesus himself. He alone is the reason for the season, as they say. He is that true light of the world, and it is only through him that we can have that real joy and peace in our hearts. But how can we be so sure of Jesus' credentials? After all those events which we celebrate tonight, The virgin birth, the shepherds, King Herod, they all happened so long ago, in some far-off land where everyone seems to be continually fighting anyway. Can we be really confident that it's all real? Well, one of the answers to that question lies in the prophetic word in the Bible, with commentators listing over 360 prophecies linked to the coming and life of the Messiah, all written hundreds of years before Jesus was even born. And yet each and every one of them have been fulfilled in the birth, life and death of Jesus. But what could the odds of that be? Is it really possible that the words in an ancient book, without one definitive author, could really be true? How could the prophet Micah, for example, reveal that Bethlehem would be the birthplace of the Messiah 750 years before Jesus was born? Or what would be the chance of Jacob, knowing that a descendant of his son, Judah, would be the ruler of all nations? And how did the prophet Zechariah know that Jesus would arrive in Jerusalem to face his own death, riding on a donkey? Well, in 1969, one such person called Peter Stoner set out to find out what those odds might be. Now, Stoner was a mathematical professor from the United States, and he worked out the chance of such a likelihood occurring using the science of probability, with just 8 of those possible 360. And he concluded from his study that the chance of only those 8 coming true randomly would be something in the region of 1 in 10 to the power of 17. Now, I'm not very good at maths, but I know that's a staggeringly big number. And putting that probability into the context of a more practical perspective, it would be similar to covering the whole surface of France with euros, 2 feet deep, marking just one of them and then mixing them all up, and then inviting a blindfolded man to travel anywhere in the country to pick out the same previously marked euro, at the same time able to say that the specific one he was holding was the one that had been previously marked. Now that is a fairly tall order to complete, I'm sure you'd agree, and that was just with 8 of them. Yet it is against the same element of probability that the prophecies of the Bible were all fulfilled in the birth of Jesus Christ. And it led the professor, in conclusion, to make this statement. He said, "Any man who rejects Christ as the Son of God is rejecting a fact proved perhaps more absolutely than any other fact in the world." And so if we can truly believe that the Jesus, born in a little town called Bethlehem, from a virgin mother, was in fact the incarnate God, the anticipated Messiah, then we can begin to look at the ministry of Jesus and the miracles that he performed in a whole new light. And those accounts that we once thought of as great stories, but rather fanciful, can now become real and fixed historical events, whether it's changing water into wine, healing the sick or raising the dead. They become part of the rich tapestry of God's plan, through which we have all intrinsically been woven. And what we will find, if we examine those miraculous events of Jesus for ourselves, is that we consistently find all those that are healed or have been touched in some way by his presence are accompanied by great joy and peace. So much so, in fact, that even when Jesus specifically told those that he had healed not to tell others, such was their joy and excitement that they simply couldn't contain themselves and went away and did it anyway. And so the reason you are all here tonight is not the wonderful building of St. Paulinus Church, as nice as it may be. Neither is it the words of the ancient book. Not even the tradecraft coffee and the rector's mince pies can claim this honour. The reason you are here tonight is simply that same joy that has been experienced and been passed down through the centuries. It is the same light of Christ that has been making his presence known to people wherever and in whatever circumstances they may find themselves. And if you can give your heart to him today, this Christmas, he in return will offer that peace and joy that you seek. For that is what Jesus wants to give each and every one of us. He wants us all to leave this place as human torches, with joy and peace in our hearts, to carry it out, to shine as a light to the whole world. So don't worry tomorrow morning if you don't unwrap a Jedi's lightsaber. Yes, I know you'll be disappointed, but after leaving this place tonight, you could have in your possession a weapon of light much more powerful than any of the great dark forces, even Darth Vader himself. Jesus said, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Friends, there is no other way to reach God but through Jesus. He is the true light of the world. So have a great and blessed Christmas, wherever you may be spending it, and perhaps you could tell others that you might see in the holidays that tonight, on this Christmas Eve, you have met with a great light, and his name was Jesus.